I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody. Instead of a bum, which is what I am. Let's face it.
What is up, everyone, and welcome back to Men vs. Movies. I'm Griffin, as always, and today we're continuing on with Oscar month, but we got something a little different for you. We're doing a review of a classic film, not doing a top 10 list or a top 5 list, and as always, I am joined by Tyler Tompkins. Tyler, say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be back. I feel very comfortable here.
It's kind of like your second home, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I think I might move over here, man. I like it.
You need two channels emerge into one super channel, and we just conquer the world. So there's something that I kind of wanted to get into a little bit, and that is tackling classic films, reviewing classic films, because I'm a huge fan of them, and I feel like in order to really, understand and appreciate cinema and appreciate the history that cinema has, you should really, watch some classic films. And so what better than to dive into one of the most classic films ever, featuring one of the best performances ever, and that is On the Waterfront. Now, if you guys are interested, I highly encourage you to either click the links down below to rent it or purchase the Blu-ray, whatever you're feeling. Like I said, you all should definitely be watching classic films, and this is one you should see at least once in your life. All right, let's move into it. Tyler, hit us with a synopsis on what this film's about.
Okay, well, first of all, I have to preface this by saying I am not the biggest classic movie fan. I like classic movies, but I only like certain kinds. Like, if we're talking Alfred Hitchcock, I'm in. I'm popping that thing in. Going back to, the 50s, the 40s, and 30s, there's just something about classic movies that they don't really grab me. You really have to do something special. And like Alfred Hitchcock, the guy invented new camera techniques. He was doing different things that would really pull you in, and those movies contained a type of magic. Movies like the On the Waterfront and a couple of other ones, I really struggle to get through them sometimes, even though this one was actually good, a lot of good performances. But when I'm watching those movies, I feel like I'm just watching kind of a theatrical play. It's just something that can't really, grab my full attention. But again, I did enjoy this one. I was worried that it would happen to me with this one, and even though sometimes it did, I still did enjoy it, and I'm glad I watched it because this movie is considered a classic. I always have these ideas of what a movie will be like before I go in to watch it, but On the Waterfront, again, proved me wrong, just like a lot of other classic movies. This plot is kind of simplistic, but there is a lot going on, so I'm going to try my best to describe what it's about. Basically, this movie is about a guy named Terry, played by Marlon Brando, who is involved with the mob. Now, there are a lot of crimes being committed on the waterfront where Terry works, and Terry has a lot to do with this because he's involved with it, and he starts falling in love with the woman whose brother was killed because of Terry, and Terry struggles on whether or not to reveal what he did to her, but he doesn't want to go against this mob boss because his brother is involved with the mob, and it would put not only Terry in danger, but also his brother. So there's a lot going on, and there's a lot more to it.
Yes, On the Waterfront. Fuck. Okay, I can't talk. Yes, On the Waterfront is a sheer classic. And it's not only remembered for how good of a film it was, but for how incredible of a performance Marlon Brando gave in this movie. I still to this day feel it is his best performance, even better than The Godfather, as I alluded to in our top 5 Oscar wins of all time video. You can check that out right over there. But anyways, all that aside, I think the reason why this movie is so resonant and why it kept my attention the whole time is because of Brando's performance and the story to an extent, but mainly Brando's performance. I have to say, it truly is ahead of its time. It doesn't feel like any other performance that you would normally see at that point in time. It actually feels very genuine, very authentic, real. It feels like he really tried to embody what a lower educated dock worker might be. And seeing what Terry has to go through for this film, coping with the fact that he used to be a very successful boxer, he could have been a contender.
I could have been a contender.
And seeing how his life has kind of just gone downhill. His life's not really going anywhere, and he meets this girl, and you see how that kind of changes his life, and he realized that he has to do more in his life. He has to be more. And seeing him go through that character transformation in this movie is riveting up until the very last shot and last sequence of this movie that is incredibly powerful. I don't want to give it away, but my God, it's like the whole thing comes full circle, and at the end you're just cheering, yes, this is awesome.
Yeah, you nailed it. Like I said, it's harder for classic movies to grab my attention just because they're all pretty much the same. But Brando is really what makes this one different, because out of everyone, acting in this movie, even though they're good, Brando, he just feels like a character from a movie that would come out today because he's so good, and he feels real and authentic. Like you said, he felt like an actual character, and thankfully he's in almost every single scene of the movie, so at least you have that to watch. And I think that's why this movie is called a classic. You know, the story itself is okay. I mean, it's not like an amazing story or anything, but it's just cool seeing this character try to get out of these situations that he's in, these dangerous situations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I, you know, it's not only Brando who's really, I mean, he's the main draw for the film, but I actually quite enjoyed Eva Marie Saint, who played his love interest, Edie. She was also quite good. And I believe this was her acting debut, and as someone who's, you know, given it their first performance on the big screen, I thought she held her own with Brando enough. The romance and their chemistry worked. Their whole chemistry and their story arc and how their romance shapes Terry as a character was one of the things that I loved most about the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I agree too. She was also very good. And fun fact, she's actually still alive to this day. She's 93 years old.
Boom. There you go.
But yeah, it was fun watching that relationship too, because, you know, it's a pretty important part of the movie. But I would say once not spoiling anything, but once it hits the halfway point, things start escalating very quickly. That's whenever I was actually really into this movie, and I was like, okay, wow, okay, there's some danger in here, and things are getting pretty intense. There are bodies popping up, and some very important people are in danger. This is kind of where you get to see some, you know, more of Brando's acting chops. You know, there are scenes where he breaks down and cries, and again, that just feels totally real. And again, you just kind of feel that love that they have for each other in those scenes, because that's one of the most important parts.
No, I would agree with you. I think the second half of the movie, as much as I do enjoy the setup and everything, I think they do a good job of painting the characters fully there. It's the second half that is really gripping, and the decisions that Terry makes on whether or not he's going to go against his union here, because really it is a union. It's the mob, but the mob has control over these dock workers, and as a result, it's really more of a union. And so him going through the decision on whether or not he's going to stand up and do what's right, or whether he's going to be like everyone else and he's just too afraid for his own life. That whole conflict was done beautifully throughout the movie, especially in the second half. In the second half is really when the movie starts to become more of like a crime film. As a lover of crime films, that's what I loved most about it.
Yeah, that part was good too. And one thing I wish the movie kind of would have talked about more and hit on more. I know, you know, that one famous scene, you know, I could have been a contender.
I could have been a contender.
But I kind of wish it would have hit a little bit more on the story of him being a boxer and him being affected by how he could have been a contender. And I know that that's one specific scene is supposed to do that, but for me personally, I would have just liked to see a little bit more of that, because they make it a pretty big deal that he was a boxer. I don't know, I just kind of wanted a little bit more from Terry's past.
No, yes, I actually 100% agree with what you're saying. That is the one thing that I wish they would have delved into a little bit more, is his boxing past. Now, I understand it's really not pertinent to the story at hand. It's kind of just there as character development and motivation for him to kind of flesh out his backstory. But I feel like he almost feels kind of like a Rocky character in this movie, but they never dive into the fighting past that he had. And maybe that's just because the past is the past, and he has to let the past go, be present in the now, and be a better person now. Maybe that's part of the reason for it. Maybe through like a flashback or something like that. That would have been really interesting to see, especially if they had showcased like the fight that he ultimately ended up throwing, which ruined his life.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted, you know, a flashback or two, but this also ties back into Brando's performance. He made the character so interesting that I just wanted to see more of it.
Yeah, that was, yes, absolutely. I feel like there was a character written on paper, and then there was a character that Brando, he took the stuff that was written on paper and he completely fleshed out the character even more so that it made him more interesting. There was something to him, and you knew that just because of all the emotions that he was portraying.
Yeah, and like another thing, I mean, you brought up, you know, the girl was also very, very good. Just like the main plot, you know, even though it wasn't like extremely interesting to me, I just kind of wanted to see, you know, something with them, just like them hanging out. I really like those scenes with them hanging out, and it was just those two talking.
We've been talking about their kind of chemistry, but I think the scene, one of the most iconic scenes in the film, and the one that really kind of hits home, is when they're in the taxi, when Terry and his brother Charlie are in the taxi, and they're having that encounter, and Terry's you know, spilling his guts about this stuff, and you understand Charlie's involvement and stuff. Like I said, I don't want to dive too deep into it because I do want you guys to watch this film. That whole scene was riveting to me. Everything that had been building up in Terry's life, his regrets and all that stuff, just were kind of spilled out in that one scene that made it so powerful.
Yeah, it was a really good scene, but it was kind of another case, very similar to Call Me By Your Name. I was looking forward to the very end of that movie just because people were hyping it up. I'd heard about On the Waterfront, and I'd heard about this one specific scene, and I kind of hyped myself up, and even though I liked it, when it was over, I was just kind of like, oh, that's it? Like it just stops. But it was still it's a really good scene, and I can see why it is considered iconic, because had I seen this movie for the first time, it probably would have stood out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you wouldn't have had like the years of hype around that scene.
Yeah, because this movie's had like 60 years of hype. I remember, I go to the Cinemark down the street, and they were playing this movie in the theaters, and they played that one scene from the movie.
So before we close out here, Tyler, what would you give this film on our rating scale?
On your rating scale, I would give this an In the Fight. I did like this movie. I liked it more than I thought I would. I was very nervous going into it, but I just don't see myself rewatching this one over and over again. But it's overall, it's a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is like one of my all-time favorite classic films. I understand why you don't necessarily care for just knowing how you feel about like older films and stuff like that. But you watched it. You know what? You gave it a shot. Yeah. You ended up enjoying it for the most part, so I can appreciate that. But for me, this is one of the all-time greats. It's one of the all-time great Best Picture winners. It's one of the all-time great Oscar wins, and Marlon Brando winning. For me, this movie is just elegant on all levels. It feels real. They tackle important and heavy themes that stick out. The movie just makes you care for the characters in such a way that was ahead of its time. A lot of the stuff in this film, especially from an acting standpoint, I just felt was ahead of its time. And for all those reasons, that's why, for me, the film is supercharged. There you have it, guys. That is our review of On the Waterfront. Like I mentioned at the beginning, you definitely should check this film out if you have not seen it. There are links in the description below for where you can go rent it or buy the Blu-ray if you're really interested. It's got a sweet little Criterion Collection cover there, so definitely check that out. And just so you know, we are Amazon affiliates, so every time you click the link down below, it'll give a little kickback to us if you happen to order something through those links. So it's helping us out, but it's also letting you guys watch some classic films. So if you're interested, links are below. And as always, Tyler, thank you for joining us on this lovely review. We may have another one in store in the future. Am I wrong?
Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see. Man.
We'll have to see. Yeah. Like I said, this is all a surprise. But anyways, Tyler, go ahead and plug yourself.
Yeah, dude, I really appreciate it. Thanks for letting me come on. And I do want to say I appreciate you getting me to watch this movie, because I'd been wanting to watch it, but I just couldn't hype myself up to watch it. And, I finally had a reason to watch it. And
sure.
I got to see an amazing performance. Marlon Brando, I would say it's my favorite Marlon Brando performance too. I think it's just so great. And I think all of you should check it out. Give it a chance still. Check those links out. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Just search Tyler Tompkins, and I should be the first, or probably the first one to pop up. Every time I search Tyler Tompkins, I come up. I come up first.
Yeah, I own the search engine. It's all me.
Yeah, last time I checked.
But anyways, guys, if you like this video, be sure to like it, share with your friends, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more movie reviews, movie-related content, more Oscar month. There will be a link over here or in the little, the little doobie where you can go check out the playlist where all of our Oscar month videos will be housed. We've got another one coming up for you in the next couple of days, so stay tuned. You can also like Men vs. Movies on Facebook and follow us on Twitter simply by searching Men v Movies. And lastly, guys, if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, you can always give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right. I'll do it for this review, guys, and until next time, take care.